The other strategy from another company was, if I don't make it, someone else will. So I will private label and make products for everybody.
What if there was a GPO contracting strategy that could double your market share, help you win contracts even when you lose the bid, and position you as a strategic partner rather than just another vendor? Today, we're uncovering the private labeling approach that most medical device companies completely overlook.
So we've been talking a lot about GPO contracts and even IDN contracts. What is the normal process for a GPO contract? How do you get started in submitting?
I think first one, you register with the GPO. That's something that I've learned recently that I took for granted, in the sense of like you actually got to get registered with the GPO as a small company or any size company, so that they know that you're out there, right? So go online, you sign up, you get registered, and then you're in the pool of that category or technologies that you offer, and when the time comes, if they're looking to get the bid started, then they'll send out an RFI, right, request for information. And then that process really is like, who are you as a company? What kind of details around your team, your manufacturing? Do you have the right products? Do you fit the cross-reference, what they're looking for? And you get a couple weeks to submit that, right? And then once they look at you and say, yep, this is a fit, then you get the RFP, which is your request for proposal, and that's where it really is longer, right? They ask for your full cross-reference, clinical, backing, white papers. They will know more about your manufacturing, your small business, or diversity, status, and then they ask a lot of like the mechanics of the product, what it's made up of. So all these things get asked, and this really the components of it. And that could be a month, it could be 2 months, and then the last piece would be like your final questionnaire and proposal, and that's when you kind of tidy up your pricing, the different strategies of what do they have, their groups or performance groups, or sole source type thing, right? And then you go back and forth, and you could get kind of one last swing at it in that last process before your final proposal, contract and T's and C's and all that stuff is tied together.
Okay, great, thanks. So is there something that's out of the normal, out of the ordinary, something that's not intuitive that you've seen work to help either make your GPO proposal more attractive or give you more success once you're granted the GPO contract? Yeah.
So this one I think is a little bit different, and it doesn't fit everybody's wheelhouse, but I would say private labeling with the GPO is absolutely a tactic that I think more companies could do that they don't realize is an option for them. Each one of the GPOs, so HealthTrust has Regard, Vizient has Novaplus, Premier has S2S, which is a relationship. It's not solely owned, but they have the ability to private label products under that GPO logo, that name, and that represents different strategies. So I've worked for a couple market-leading companies, and both had very, very different strategies on this, right? So one was, our brand is our brand, and we're going to protect it at all costs. We don't want a private label, because why would we give up our name? Why would we give up a flagship product, right? We're going to own our name. That's who we are. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that strategy. And the other strategy from another company was, if I don't make it, someone else will. So I will private label and make products for everybody. And what that does is it builds market share, right? So it builds your supply chain up. It builds your ability to be nimble and sell products through different channels. But when it comes down to that RFI, RFP process, and they're asking about market share, and you've done private labeling for other companies, your market share is actually much bigger, right? You don't have to look at it from just your brand. You can look at it from where your product or technology is at. And that represents, you don't have to divulge who, but you know what your market share is, and you know it's going through different channels, and that actually is a bigger footprint, which is what the GPO is looking for. Is, do you have market share? Yeah, here's why I have it. So then to take that and say, I have the ability to do this, so with each one of the GPOs, how do I get engaged with that private label team? And they are the ones that then you can work with them separately. It won't be part of the bid process, but it is a channel that you can use simultaneously, so that if you are awarded and they want to do a private label, it launches all at the same time, and it's the same launch strategy, and you're just as involved. But now you get not only your brand on contract, but you would also have your product as their brand, and you kind of work with their sales team, right? So you can kind of double that down. So that's just one kind of avenue of, getting more awareness in the market of having it. But what I would say is, even if you don't win that bid, there's a good chance that if they really like your product from the GPO side, that they could win it, right? So now you get on the contract with their brand, right, as their name. It's your product, and you could be the commercial strategy for that product. So you still get to go out and sell it. You still get to go out and part of your portfolio. You still get to say you have a contract, but it's through the GPO, and then now you have an opportunity to work with them, and they have a better vested interest because they want that to work for them, right? You work out whatever the percentage is, or how they buy it from you or whatever, but it gives you a way to kind of give access to that market with the product, your product, to build up more market share while you're out there.
Okay, so making the GPO, the proposal for the contract, more attractive, that's using your private label for other companies in the sense of market share, how much market share you have. But if you get the contract, it could be more successful if you're able to private label through the GPOs, or if you may, like you said at the end, get the contract that way. Mm-hmm. I heard you right on that. So for the GPOs, what are they looking for in private label products?
Yeah. Each one's going to be different. I think sometimes it's the sustainability. I mean, that's a big one, right? Is if you're going to do this, can you fully commit to having product availability? Because the last thing they want is to have a product that goes on back order of their own brand, right? So that's a big part of it. They're looking for something that could be, a unique product offering. A lot of them start out with simple, more commodity or PPE type products. Those are things that are easier to sell, less clinical. But I think if you are working with that GPO and you're getting creative, what is that private label sales team look like, and how sophisticated are they? And then you can work on like how much clinical support they might need, and you can be that clinical support for them. And it gives you the ability to kind of work through the GPO, build an amazing relationship with the GPO, because now you're having a different business conversation than just a normal, RFI process. And then from there, it could be other products that evolve into it, or you have your product on the contract and you have theirs, and then you got to navigate how to. There's plenty of fish in the pond, right? So you have your sales team selling either all of it or just a piece of it, and then you have your clinical team supporting the GPO. But they want to see that brand do well under their name, so they're going to have you very involved in that process too.
Okay, and for the private label sales team for the GPOs, how many products are they carrying? How do you get their attention with your product?
So they could be carrying, there could be hundreds of contracts that they could have on the private label side. I think it's the same value prop. Does your product fit a need within the hospital, as far as, is it a product that goes on back order a lot, right? So is there a supply chain demand that you can meet? Is there a pricing savings? Is it a product that you can offer substantial savings on, and you just don't have the ability to outreach, right, the network, but they do. So now you're offering a product that can drive savings, it has a clinical advantage or mutual advantage, right? But by the GPO selling their brand, the GPO is also making money on, the delta that you give them. They're getting their brand out there, so they're bringing more value back to their members as a GPO, right? So you're kind of helping build up that story with them too. And you get their attention by, what is it you think that how you could support them, what value you can bring in savings, what they can make off of it. Because it's not going to be like your 3% fees on the GPO. It's going to be more a true distribution agreement. So there's a profitability for them to make on this. So you have to be able to be comfortable with that too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You mentioned the delta and the profitability. Is it similar to other private label deals you would make in the market?
It is. Yep. And I'll just make up a number, right? 20% or 25%, right, is the less than the sale price, whatever that may be. I mean, it's different. It's all over the board. For every technology, maybe 5%, right?
Yeah.
I don't know everyone's business from that standpoint, but yeah, it's that same kind of model. You're going to buy it from me for X. I'm going to private label it. Here's the fees to private label it to you, and then it's a one-time setup fee, whatever that is, and then they put it on contract, and then technically they would have to pay the fees. Because the GPO, right, it's the GPO contract now, and it's not your contract, it's their contract. You're just supporting it. So if you don't want to be on from a national standpoint and you just want to support them from a private label, I mean, that's also a very good strategy too. You don't need to have them on both. And they'll walk you through that, right?
Yeah.
Each one of the GPOs is different. So some of them have to have a national standpoint before you can even get to that private label team. Others can do the sourcing and be the contract, right? They can actually take forth and say, hey, we'll just take it over from here. We'll win the award. We're very confident we can win the award, and you'll be on contract with us and we'll sell it together, right? So you see the two different strategies.
Yeah.
One is I got to get the national down, so I'm going to give a really good bid, a strong bid, but because I'm giving the private label team a really good option here too, it counts in the total value you're bringing in your total RFI, RFP,
Okay.
right? You would make that very clear with the sourcing team is, hey, we're working with the private label team to make this happen too. So in order for this to happen so that your GPO gets the bigger value, we need to be here, right? So you're kind of building those blocks of, it's not just a bid you dropped on their lap and said, here, I filled all the spots in. I'm strategically trying to position myself to help your GPO explore and do better with this contract. That's one avenue. The other one is, I don't have all the resources. I don't really need the national. If you want this private labeled, I'll help support you, win it, give you the best options, do the value prop, do the clinical sourcing, all those things with you. You win the GPO award with our product under your brand, and we'll fully support it commercially. So two different ways you could go.
Okay. A couple of follow-up questions. The first one is, what does supporting them commercially look like?
Sales, one, right? Sales, I mean, you're going to help come up with some of the marketing material as well. So you might do a co-branded sheet, or you can whatever they kind of, you're working with their name and logo and all that kind of stuff too. So you want to work with them and make sure you have the right marketing and the communication the right way. But your sales team is out, whether it's 5 or 50, they're out promoting that product, and they're selling to your common customers, and just like as part of your portfolio, help them promote that. And then of course you've got the supply chain piece, right? You're keeping product on hand for them, so they're making sure you have the right inventories at all time. You have your regulatory team that is involved. It's your product, so you still got to own it from a regulatory standpoint, but you can help support any changes or things that are happening in the market, right? You're supporting them there. And then if you have a clinical team, they can be integrated with their team to go out and do in-servicing and training and education and stuff on the product.
Okay. You mentioned one version, I think, Novaplus, is that, no?
Yep.
Yeah, Novaplus is a brand.
For Vizient, yep.
Yeah, okay. So your sales rep would be out with a Novaplus product, or would it be a MedBridge product?
So for Vizient, that's a good question, right? To clarify, like I said, all of them are very, very different. With Vizient, you get the national first, and then when you support it with a co-branded Novaplus.
Okay.
They don't always do full-fledged just Novaplus, but usually it's co-branded. So your logo and their logo on there. It's almost like another program that they offer,
Sure.
versus a full-fledged private label. But you are labeling it with your IFU, the labeling, everything. Probably a part number would be unique. Doesn't have to be, but it's easier, right? You have a different part number, and then you're out selling that product as, hey, this is a MedBridge Novaplus awarded product, and that's very specific to that Novaplus platform. And there are other fees that you would pay in that format. You would pay an extra 2 or 3% on top of your national fees to be part of that program. But then they give you direct access to everybody that's part of Novaplus. They help promote your product as the Novaplus portfolio, supply chain, and all those things. So that's a little bit different avenue than being full-fledged private label, where, let's say, with Premier and S2S, you would completely private label it as Premier Pro or the S2S brand, their logo, and you would just be the behind the scenes.
Okay. But my field sales would be out with the Premier Pro product, giving all the typical support we would otherwise.
And that's negotiable as well.
Okay.
But yes, if you feel that you can help penetrate more and drive that product, then the GPO will welcome that joint effort to go out and sell it. And not only selling it, we talked a little bit about supply chain, but each one of them have warehouses. So either A, they can stock it and ship it, or they're going to have a deal with a distributor and pull from it, or you're going to stock it and ship it, right? But those are all negotiable and like, hey, this is what we're willing to do for this fee or for this price, right? So you got to think about what it makes sense with the finance team and the overhead of what it would be, just like you would any other private label decision you're making with another company. But those are all avenues that you can help push your product through them.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that wasn't completely clear was, before being awarded the contract, is this taken into consideration as a part of awarding your contract, either through their own private label team or through your company? Is it part of the consideration?
I will say that it will help in the sense that it's really, really good for them to know that you're doing that. It's not going to be, in the RFI process, it's not going to be a checkbox. Yes, I'm private labeling, or I'm offering a private label option, right? It's two separate teams. But if you're working with both those teams, they're also going to talk and say, hey, we're really working with MedBridge. They really are working hard to get this proposal together for a private label. This could be really good for our members. It's a strong value prop. There's savings and all these things, and we're looking forward to promoting this. But we also need to make sure that it's running parallel with them on the national side, right? So I'll never say that you're going to guarantee to get a contract one or the other just because you start doing private label. But if you're interested in doing it, you can bring it to the private label team at any time. If you're in a bidding process, it's really good to bring it up right away and say, listen, we're trying to work with you in all avenues, so we're willing to work with you from that standpoint.
Great. So one final question. If you were in charge of contracting for GPOs, what would make you think to go down this road of private label? What scenario or scenarios would most likely make you consider this option?
From my experience, I think about the product type. Not all product is going to work, right? So it has to be an easy education type product. If you have a very sophisticated product and needs a lot of hands-on training, educating, it's probably not ideal for a private label. But if you have something that's simple, type of commodity product, or a PPE, basic routine respiratory anesthesia products, right, which I'm familiar with, then those are ones you could take to the table and say, hey, listen, like, these can kind of sell themselves. They're replacement products. There's a financial or a value analysis type decision that can be made, right? Or you get the support of the GPO saying, this is the program, this is the fees. But think about things that are easy to insert and easy to sell or easy to switch out. You don't want something that you need to have a whole crew on spending weeks at converting over. That would be my first guess. Do I have that kind of a product? And if I do, then what level of integration does the GPO expect out of us, and can I handle that? And if it's something simple, that's my next step, is like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Like, we could easily work together on this quickly, efficiently, and bring value back to them.